What's up, everybody? Norberto Sports here, and today we're going to be talking about the game that will decide if the Eagles get an easy divisional round or if the Eagles will have to go to war for the divisional round. So for tonight, in the divisional rounds, well, not the divisional rounds, the game, we have a good game. Rams versus Vikings. Whoever wins goes against the Eagles. We know that the Washington Commanders defeated the Buccaneers on Sunday's game. It was a beautiful game. I gotta say, at the beginning, I thought the Buccaneers had them in the bag, but it looked like they didn't. So now the Commanders have to play Detroit Lions. The Eagles will have to play whoever wins on tonight's game. Now, let's talk about this game. Now, the Rams have a chance to beating the Vikings. Now, if the Rams ends up beating the Vikings, we will have an easy divisional round for the Eagles, because the Rams do not stand a high chance of beating the Eagles than the Minnesota Vikings does. On the other hand, if the Minnesota Vikings end up winning tonight's game, they will go against the Eagles, and it will be a tough battle. It will be a battle between A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith against Justin Jefferson. Also, we will have a battle between Jones and Saquon and Sam Daniels against Hurts. Now, I do believe the Rams have a chance of beating the Vikings. If we go and look at the Rams' last game, they pretty much have a similar win and loss rates than the Vikings. They lost the last game they lost before week 18 was against the Eagles, winning against New Orleans, against Buffalo, against 49ers, against the New York Jets, Arizona, and losing once again, but this time to the Seahawks. Now, if we go and take a look at the Minnesota Vikings, their loss is pretty much similar when it comes to the last game. Before, they lost to the Rams. They did lose to the Rams once. This was the October 24th game. The score ended 30-20. I think the Rams do have a chance at redoing that. I don't think the score is going to be the same. I think it's going to be a much higher score. Probably the Rams defeat the Vikings 43-40, something like that. I do believe the game can go to a field goal, which is what people believe as well. The game should end by a kick, which is what I also believe. But I expect it to be a higher scoring game. Also, the game could be a low scoring game like the Eagles did, 10-22. But for the Vikings and Rams, I do believe it can get a lot higher than 30-20. It could go to 40-43, or probably can go to 30-something to 20-something. The game should not be like this. It was a big gap, though. 10 was the score that allowed the Rams to win 30-20 at 10 game score. So, the Minnesota Vikings lost to the Rams in October 24th, but won against Indianapolis, Jaguars, Titans, Bears, Cardinals, Falcons, Bears, Seahawks, and won against Green Bay Packers, and losing to Detroit on their last game. That was the battle for the first seed. That was a beautiful game. Now, if you look at it, the Detroit Lions have not lost a single game. Vikings was in October 20th. So the Vikings have not won a game against Detroit Lions. So if the Vikings beat the Rams tonight, they go against the Eagles. If somehow the Vikings end up beating the Eagles, which is a scenario that I think is going to be a 50-50 chance. 50-50 chance because the Vikings, as well as the Rams, have shown us that what happened last year is not happening this year. The Rams are not a bad team, but they have able to do a lot of things. The Vikings ended the season 14-3, and the Rams ended the season 10-7. Just little closing, just this close to not making it, but still made it 10-7. It might be bad. You might think, oh, that's not a good, but still, they did a good job. They showed their defense showed what they're capable of. The offense shows what they're capable of. Scoring good points. Yeah, some of them were low score, but a lot of them were high score as well. So we gotta look at every game. So if the Eagles lose to the Vikings and the Vikings get to the championship, and the Detroit Lions beat the Commanders, which is what it should happen. I don't see the Commanders beating the Detroit Lions, but do not be surprised if that upset ends up happening. It could happen, but I don't see it happening. I think the championship might as well go to the Detroit Lions. They have not lost a single regular season game against the Vikings. So if they did not lose out of the two games they play, the Detroit Lions this year against the Vikings went 2-0. I think that can go up to 3-0 if they beat them in the championship, which is something that could happen. Now, the Vikings and the Rams are not far from each other. They're pretty close. The receivers, yeah, we gotta look at Puka Nakua, Copper Cup, and we need to look at Justin Jefferson. Of course, not only Justin Jefferson, but we also gotta look at his running back. Both running back have been good running backs. I don't see the running backs that far from each other. K. Williams with 1,000 rushing yards, and if we see Jones 1,000 rushing yards as well. So right there, they're kind of close to each other. Now, wide receivers, we need to look at Justin Jefferson. That's San Daniel's go-to receiver. He has 1,500 yards compared to Puka Nakua, who's lacking a little bit, only 990 yards. So receiving, if we talk about wide receivers, Puka Nakua stays a little below, but we also need to look at C Cup with 710 yards, receiving yards. He has been targeted 100 times compared to Puka Nakua target 106 times. Now, if we go over to Minnesota Vikings, we can see that Addison has been targeted 99 times. And with him being targeted 99 times, he has 875 yards. So they're pretty much close there. So their two to go receivers are kind of tied if we look at it like this. Now, the real tie comes to the running backs. The running backs are pretty close to each other. So that's going to be a battle. Show who's better. Now, St. Daniels has 4,300 yards compared to Stanford with 3,700 yards. Right there, we see a little gap of about 600 yards, I would say. So we do have a little gap right there in passing yards when it comes to quarterback. Now, let's look at their top defenders. So for the Rams, Rusobun, I think I say his name wrong, has 135 tackles with Jay McCollum, I don't know if I say that right, safety, having 4 interceptions. Now, when we go over, Cashman from the Minnesota Vikings with 112 tackles, and Murphy with 6 interceptions. The difference right there are are not that big of a deal. Two more interceptions and for the Vikings, and they're down by 20 tackles when it comes compared to the Rams. Now the Rams have 135 tackles and 4 interceptions compared to the 6 interceptions by the Vikings by Murphy Jr. and 112 tackle by Cashman. Now I do believe that the defense of the Rams can overcome the offense of Minnesota Vikings. I think this game gonna be more of a defense game, so I wouldn't expect this game to go to a high scoring game. Probably the Vikings can break through and get the game up the scores, but if we look at the Rams, their offense can also do the same. Now, saying that whoever wins today will decide the fate of the Eagles. If they're having an easy game, if they're having a hard game, if they're gonna have to go to war, or if they're gonna have to just battle a team. If the Rams win, the Eagles will have an easy divisional round. But if the Minnesota Vikings win, on the other hand, the Eagles will have a battle that's gonna be hard fought on Sunday. So watch tonight's game if you're an Eagles fan, because tonight's game is going to tell us what should we expect to see Sunday when the Eagles plays tonight's winner.